as well, and formed a set of action plans. And those were approved by the board in June of 2009. Okay. Now then the next year obviously was implementing these plans. And so what we did is, one of the big deal here was to spend a lot of time asking parents what's their preference for communication. How do they want to get information? And far and away, it was email or electronic in terms of most things that were of routine nature. So even that, as a result of that, we stepped up a lot of our email blasts. Each of the buildings increased the use of email, changes to the website and all of that. And there's a caveat here to this I don't want to overlook, is that what parents definitely were very firm on is if it was an issue with my child, other than the routine nature, grades are falling, there's a behavior issue, they want a meeting or they want a phone call. They want a person-to-person contact. So I don't want to create the impression that people just want email and that's all they want. The routine things, they really like email, but for the things that are out of the ordinary involving their students, they want the personal touch that Pleasantdale, because of our size and so on, can do. All right. There were published communication protocols that were in the brochure, then we put them in the calendar, the directory, the buildings talked about them, so people knew who to go to. So that has continued. And then what began was research to update our automated calling system and web-based. So this had to do mainly with the software, but also the hardware that needed the servers and so on. So that actually began the whole thing as to moving into Skyward. And I should tell you that here's where we had, I'm going to call it a minor disaster. After this year, when we had STI, which was a good software for us for about 8 years, and they went web-based the next year, and the company basically, I think they're close to defunct right now. So I think we all remember that was not a good time in the life of communication at Pleasantdale. Okay, then finally, this last year, again, we had a communication committee. So at least I think this was the third one since I've been here, 3 or 4 different committees. We reconstituted the core team. We, again, formed a community of protocols. We attempted to increase contact with non-school seniors, inform parents of curriculum changes, and this began. We determined to change from STI to Skyward. And also at the time, the core team met in the fall of 2010 and reviewed all of the action plans that were developed by that team, and basically said, yes, you've implemented every single one of these, but the software has got to change. And so, remember, if you recall, I came back to the board and said, this was consensus by the core team, and it was our recommendation from the administration that we needed to change to Skyward, which, again, at that time we didn't know Skyward, but we researched it all year, made a recommendation to the board, and the rest you all know, so that's that. So, in less than 6 minutes, I walked you through 5 years of communication history. I hope that was helpful to kind of, and since I've kind of got the floor here, if I could just make an observation. Everything that we did was pretty much in-house. The only thing we've really used external is for the newsletter, and that was last year. So we've been, kind of parsimonious in terms of, district resources in terms of doing this. Now, what I would like the board to consider, and it's in your packet, is there is both a state chapter and a national chapter of the National Personnel for School Publications or Communication, and they do offer a professional external audit, and I think that should receive board consideration because we've done so many things in-house that maybe now is the time to say, okay, let's get a group of experts in here that do these things professionally and get an assessment of what we do. So with that, I'll stop and turn it back to Leandra.
Thanks, Mark. So in preparing for tonight, I have some marks that just review kind of what the initiatives have been over the past couple of years I thought would be helpful. And then going to our district goal as it is currently written. It was my thought that we could address the different bullets that we have here. I am open for suggestions as to order of how they feel these would like to be, possibly discussed. I don't think that the bullets as they are written are necessarily the order in which they have to be done. So I'm really open up for suggestions at this point on where the board would like to pretty much begin its conversation this evening. So,
Should we maybe prioritize these
you know, again, we can. It's
in case we don't
get through everything. Karen, do you want to offer up a suggestion on which one you'd like to do first?
I thought maybe if we ranked them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then count our 1s, our 2s, our 3s, and 4s, maybe, I don't know. I have to. maybe it's just- Can I ask real quick with Mark, with the audit, by chance, did you find out what a fee would be for this?
Well, there's two options. One is, the state, which is just largely a personnel or public relations people from districts that you come in and be a nominal charge for that. The national is more of a kind of set process where you get a full report and all of that, and we didn't pursue any cost with that until we got direction from the board. So one is a nominal cost and one would be, in the thousands of dollars cost is my guess, because you're paying people to come in, you've got transportation costs, that kind of thing as well.
What's nominal, like a couple hundred? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I think, meals and that kind of thing, but it's not as structured. We talked to some people who were on the board. When we received our award for our newsletter, Eric and I went to the award ceremony, and there were several people on the board there that explained what they do, and several who have done it. And so it's, again, less of a formal process. Could be like a first go, or if the board wanted something that was more formalized and with a full report, more in depth, then the national would be and I gave you if you look in your packet, it describes it.
Well, heck, I'll go first. I don't know at this point personally what an audit would get us. And the reason for that is that, in my opinion, if we were to have somebody from the outside, completely from the outside come in, we would show them the change in Skyward to from STI. We would show them a new website. We would show them, we could show them gobs and heaps of surveys and gobs and heaps of letters that go out. We could show them electronic Friday packets. We could show them a million things. And unless they knew the history or read every single one of them in great detail and actually understood what they read, they'd say, you're sending out tons of communication. Because my personal opinion is not the quantity of communication, it's the quality. In my opinion, we have a less is more attitude, and I think that kills us. I mean, I can cite a number of examples. One of them just occurred over this past weekend, okay? But rather than bring that up, I'll bring one up from a few years ago where administration in the board meeting literally said, well, the only reason it went out like that was I tried limiting it to one page. So details didn't go out because we were afraid of sending out, excuse me, we were afraid of sending out 2 pages. That's crazy. So in essence, if we had some outside firm come in, they'd look at that and say, well, you communicated. But if they didn't know that the details didn't go out, they wouldn't know how to rank that. And that's my fear with getting an outside audit. I'm not saying that I would be against it. I'm just suggesting that my guess is it's probably going to come back fairly favorable because they're not going to realize that the communication that is going out may not be detailed enough for what this community wishes for. My opinion.
The thing that interests me was where it's a two-way communication techniques that work for your district. I don't feel like we have two-way. It's mostly us putting information out there. But I feel like maybe we lack in how we communicate, what is communication? It's back and forth. And so that was one thing, and they said that was what we would get out of an audit. I find it hard to believe, but I thought it was interesting. And then also the information of frequency desired by your priority audiences. When we were on the communication committee, that was one of our big things that we were always stumped on. What do they want? How often do they want things of that nature? And did we really achieve that goal.
Right, and even with that, you get the mix. Some people say we put too much out and it's too